Good afternoon. Well, up for bid or sale is one of the last two Green Machine progressive reloaders that I have. I started out with 9 of them on this Lazy Susan table, and the one I'm ready to sell now is a 9mm, and it's in excellent shape. It's had a few modifications done to it to make it more reliable. And the first one I'm going to just walk over here is this is a case feeder up here, and you simply put a handful of cases in it, shake it, and they fall down the tube. So the carousel's been removed, which was always kind of a pain. You had to load them by hand, and then you had to turn them, and the little ball bearing that kept them indexed so they were right over the hole would wear the bottom of the plastic locator. So that's been changed. The other thing is the primer assembly. It had the original one was a terrible design. It was always causing trouble. Would throw primers. It would not feed. Anyway, this is a simple Dillon drop tube primer, small, readily available from Dillon, but of course you'll never need it. This is a follower rod. It works just as well without it, which follows the primers down. So you simply take a full primer tube like this one, which one will be included, and you set it up here on top. Now I'm not going to pull the pin because it's already full. Pull the hairpin, it'll drop 100 primers, and you're ready to go. Insert the follower, and what this does, it just kind of lets you know how many you have left. So right now it probably has about 35 or 40, because when it's empty, this is all the way down with the 9mm bullet sitting on top of the drop tube. Okay, also it's had a hex head bolt put in over here, so when you lower the press and the top die plate goes down, it rests firmly on top of this bolt head, and then it also rests on 2 spots in the back, so the tool post head always goes to the same position, and I think it gives you a much more accurate load. Alright, with that said, I'm going to pause this for a minute and move up closer. So when this is shipped, this tube will be pulled. Now I'm not going to pull it right now because it's pretty well full of cases. They'd be all over the floor. But anyway, the bowl just simply slides off the top, and I think you can see this pretty well. It's a Melmeline bowl. The bolts holding it in place are countersunk. I make these up out of brass and copper fittings, and it simply, when you get it, this tube will be out. You just push it all the way till it bottoms out, set the bowl up on top, and you're ready for business. Alright, one very important part is the Little Dandy powder hopper. Has a rotor on the back, and the rotor has 2 slots in it. The one slot I have marked with white paint on both sides of the slot, and also it has 2 pins that you push in, and those pins actually engage the rotor. So just make sure the white pin is in between the 2 white marks. Alright, now, not that you'll have yours set up the way I have it, but I put brass in this container. Dump the bullets in this one, and this is the catch tray for the bullets coming out are totally loaded. This works out nicely. You grab a few empty cases, throw them in the case bowl, shake it a couple times, and down they come. Okay, I'm going to try to get this set up to where you'll be able to see it and see it in operation without me getting my arms and everything in the way. Be back in a second. Okay, the first thing, of course, you want to make sure your case feeder is full, your powder hopper is full, your primer drop tube is full. Okay, the first time you operate the lever, it's going to bring the case out of the case feeder out to the decapping and sizing. Alright, push it back up. In this station now, it seated the new primer out of this primer tube. Now you got to engage the powder rotor. Alright, now this time when I pull it down, the powder hopper is going to bell the mouth of the case and put the powder in. Now, whenever I stop this press, I always stop with everything down. So you can't put a bullet in, the second bullet, you can't make a mistake. You're going to hear me say that many times. Alright, now the next, when you move this over, 9mm cases are so short, and I'm loading with unique powder, and the cases are pretty full, so when they step over, they will chink 1 or 2 grains of powder out if you don't cover it with your finger. Now I just get in the habit of doing this, and my cousin has a Dillon 1050 and it does the same thing. So any time it snaps it over to the next position when the cases are almost full, and I guess you could see that. But anyway, when I stop the arm down. Alright, now, you know, every time you pull the lever, now you're going to drop a bullet in here, and you pull the lever and you're going to get a loaded round. So it does, nothing changes, it just, that's the way it works. Now, if you were a little more coordinated than I am, I'm getting pretty fumble-fingered. You can make a little better time, but even at this rate, you know, you can load 400 or 500 rounds an hour. So, that's all there is to it. Stop once in a while. Grab a few cases. Throw them in the case feeder. Grab you some more bullets. Go on your way. Now you probably can see this bolt head here. This is the one I was talking about where the underside of the movable tool head stops on it. And it gives you quite consistent bullets. If you're loading just lead bullets that have a wax lube on them, a couple of things you have to watch for is up in this head, it will stack wax up in there, thereby changing your bullet seating depth and everything. So every once in a while, just back it out. Time to grab some more bullets. And me, if I get too many in my hand, I'll drop about half of them, which I just did. So. I really can't think of too much more to tell you about this thing. Is that I just got through loading about 1,500 rounds, so I have plenty to take care of me for the rest of my shooting at 9. So doesn't take long to do it. If you feel something very restrictive on any of the strokes, either a down or an up, stop, because I can tell you that there's a lot of military 9 brass out there, and some of it, when they stake it so the primer can't come out, it is staked to where I don't care what kind of press you're using. You can use a hand punch and an anvil, You will not punch those primers out. You'll drive the decapping pin right through the primer. So if you're picking up scrap brass at the shooting range, make darn sure you look for any crimp on the primer. If you insist on using those, you may break a pin. If you're using a certain type of decapping pin, you may pull it out of the holder. And even if you manage to push it out, if you do not run all of your brass through, clean the primer pocket, flare the mouth of where the primer goes in, you will also feel sometimes a really heavy resistance when you go to seat the primer, because you're seating it in a square shoulder where you actually push the old primer out. My opinion, throw that crimp brass away and you'll have a better day. Okay, with that, that's just about all I can tell you about this thing. We're going to take some still pictures of it and get it out there to be listed. Get it out on YouTube so you can take a look at it. Thanks for watching. I found some pieces that I made for all my green machines some time back. That was before I got the Dillon case feeder. And all it is what I call a knocker. And it's a rod that runs from clear up just under the bowl. And see if I can pan down without making you too dizzy. Clear down here to this yoke. And this has been drilled and tapped for 832s, so there'll be 2 cap screws, Allen-headed cap screws that hold it on. It will be removed when you get the press, because it just makes it so long that the shipping gets expensive. Anyway, put the 2 screws back in, tighten it up, and then the main thing is to make sure that when you're adjusting things, that this plastic ball here bumps this, but don't bend it so far to the front that the drop tube gets caught in here in this crevice. Okay, now the main thing you need to watch is right now, as you can see, the case, it's full, and there's just a few in the bowl, and I'll throw a few more in. And the thing about it is this just saves you having to bump the case feeder once in a while. And I've never found that it won't keep up with me. So we'll load, 10 or 15 or whatever here, and it just keeps knocking, banging away, and it will keep your drop tube full. So then all you have to keep track of is make sure your powder hopper stays full and your primer feed stays full. Now one of these can be put on anybody's green machine if you can drill and tap an 832 hole. I don't remember for sure, but I think these were made out of Pentaflex racks that go in drawers to hold up files. They're about a ½ inch wide by 1/8 inch thick. Pretty easy to bend and maneuver. So, fumble finger, sorry. But this is the way it goes, and as you see, that thing just keeps now actually we're down one here, so we'll just throw a few more pieces of brass in, and then you're good to go again. I find that it works great, so you may or may not want to use it, but it sure helps me. Leaves my left hand just feeding the bullets. There you go. Thanks for watching. Alright, this is the last little bit of this video, and you can see the nice bright pink brass shaker bowl and the yellow cartridge bin, catch bin that'll be included. And here's the primer follower rod, small primer pickup tube, Dillon. And these are some nice gauges to set your machine up. And if you don't know for sure, these things all start with the primer hole in the transfer bar and the head. So you'd remove one die that goes in to where your decapping pin is, or you can put it in the second station, remove the powder measure, and you drop it down, and this end goes right in the transfer bar, your primer pocket. This other little one here is you pull your primer, the Dillon primer drop tube if you ever need to, and that drops in the hole where the primer tube came out of. Cycle the machine to where the primer transfer bar is all the way out, and that should drop right into the hole, meaning that the tube is lining up with the primer bar shuttling in and out. I actually set it a little bit to where it goes out a hair further than it needs to go, so it has a chance to pick that primer up on the outward stroke and or the inward stroke. Okay, with all that said, the cover, this is a cover that I don't think I've ever used, but I noticed it does have just a little bit of shelf wear on it. It's got a couple minor cuts clear down here in the bottom. I don't know if you can see them or not, but I mean, they won't affect how the thing works, but I just want to let you know. Thank you for looking.